And I would like to start, we'll try to be very brief and give time for questions and answers, but we would like to outline the reason for calling for this press conference. Indeed, both the government in Portugal and the Troika and the European institutions say that austerity is giving results and good results in Portugal. So this is the mainstream speech and the mainstream idea, and we would like to show that this is not true. This is not working by no means, and on the contrary, all the austerity measures are really destroying the country, are really killing the country, and this recipe simply does not work. And so we wonder, why does the government and the European and the Troika insist in the same recipe that this has shown not to work by no means. And so I would like to give this first approach to this. One has to do with deficit. The government had said that they would be able to contain the deficit at 4.5% in 2012, and they were sure that they would achieve a deficit of 3% in 2013. And the reality is, in the first semester of this year, in the first 6 months of this year, the deficit has gone up to 6.9%. If we talk about the sovereign debt, we know that in 2013 the debt will be 125% of the gross product, and so this is a total disaster. And so would like to give you also now some more precise figures. I'll do that, and Marisa as well will complete some other issues. The reality is that the Portuguese government and the Troika have been implementing a social violence against the population as we have never seen in 37 years after the fall of the dictatorship. We have never seen this social violence to this point. And in spite of the fact that in September 15th, 1 million people turned out to the streets, and 1 million people means 1/10 of the population, and we hadn't seen that either since '74. Even when 1 million people turn up and show up in the streets, they still insist in the same recipe. And so I think that some figures may help you to understand what the situation in Portugal is. It's a very, very large inequality in in the distribution of revenues. In Portugal, 20% of the people who are amongst the richer have an income 6 times higher than 20% of the poor. About 43% of the population is in risk of poverty, in spite of some of the social supports, and 1 in every 5, so 20% of the population is considered to be poor. We also think that, we also know that in what concerns the unemployment, we have now, according to official statistics, 1,343,000 Portuguese who are out of out of jobs, and this gives a real unemployment rate of 23.3%, and this has increased more than 20%. Then has undergone an increase of more than 20% since the Troika came in May of last year. So in a bit more than a year, unemployment has raised by 20%. Also, if we go through if we look at the young people between below 24 years, so this rate reaches 35.5%.
And these are the official data.
Yes, this is official data of the National Statistics Institute that no one can deny, or not even not the government.
But the real figures are.
Of course, we believe and we estimate that real figures are much higher, and in a short time we'll have also the redundancy of 50,000 public servants that the government has announced that they wanted to fire in a very short time. And at the same time, the social security supports have gone down. I would just like to underline, just before finishing and passing on to Marisa, that one of the impositions of the Troika was also a deep change in the working conditions and the legislation concerning work. And this has meant that really the work relationships are totally deregulated, and the precarity has increased very, very strongly. And also, for instance, the Portuguese teachers are amongst those whose salaries were most affected by the economical crisis, and this is also some of the data, official data from the European Commission. They have been made redundant in thousands and thousands in this year. And okay, we can also talk a bit longer about precarity amongst the youth, but also in all layers of society, because now precarity has been becoming the rule, and not by no means the exception, but the rule. So all the work guarantees and rights that have been won after '74 and the fall of dictatorship are really now being very, very severely threatened. So I'll stop here now, and we can come back. Thank you.
So thank you so much again for being here. I will just continue in order to give additional data, because what we see is that as Alda said, the dominant and the official discourse and the words of both Troika and the Portuguese government say normally that Portugal is the good pupil, the good student of these adjustment programs. And then they try to show, and we saw this week when we had the hearing with Mr. Draghi, the head of the European Central Bank, we saw that he was saying that Portugal is facing very, very positive progresses in terms of the implementation of the program. And when asked directly about these so positive progresses, he talked about the reduction of the cost of the work and the increase of exports. But I think that there are also other figures in the Portuguese society we should be known of everyone when we talk about this. Even that I disagree that decreasing the value of labor is a positive note anyway, but that's another issue. So I just want to give you some figures in order to complement what Alda said in several domains, because what you see is that austerity is really killing in Portugal, and indirectly and directly as well, and I'll explain it afterwards. And all the domains are being touched. For instance, we knew over the last days that concerning the report of the EIMF fiscal monitor, that Portugal is the second economy in the world with the higher tax burden for the citizens. And it was, the first one is Argentina, just to give you the example. And the data is, as a reference, 2010 and 2011. If we include the measures in order to increase taxes, which were announced by the government last week, we are sure that we will be the first in the world in the near future, and that's not something which is really positive, in the sense that the traditional role of the taxes is not being played anymore. The traditional role of having redistribution and then having good and proper public services is not working anymore, because citizens are paying higher taxes, but they are also paying higher costs for the health, education, and everything which is related with the state. We have the VAT, which is the highest in Europe, 23%. And even in some domains, which was normally lower, for instance, in the restaurants and in the touristic services, the increase was from 13% to 23%. But if we talk about the goods, the basic needs, it would be surprising to see, but it is true that, for instance, electricity, gas, and other basic goods which people need in order to live has increased also to 23%. And we are talking about 4 times more than, and 3 times more than it was before. So people are paying much more in terms of taxes, and the results are, as we said, total disaster. So it's not the recovery of the economy, but the total destruction of the basis of the economy. So passing directly to some data and figures. We know, for instance, that in terms of education, there was a huge cut in 2012, and the cut was already of 864 million euros only in 1 year for 2012, and the government expects to cut additional 102 million euros, which led to the fact that 20,000 professionals were out of the system because of these measures, and of course the services decreased a lot in terms of the quality. If we talk about health, we don't have exactly the proper figures still. We'll have it at the end of the year for sure. But we had huge cuts in the more than 800 million euros as well in the National Health Service. But mainly what we are seeing in Portugal is that with the increase of the price that people have to pay in order to go to the hospital or to the health care center, and with the reduction of the pensions, more the older population, the elderly population, don't have the conditions in order to access even to basic health care treatment, and normally they have to choose about the medicines they want to buy in the pharmacies, because we are in a moment where a huge slice of the elderly population cannot even buy the medicines they need in order to face their health problems. Together with the fact that the pharmacies are also fighting back the crisis, and they are in a difficult situation, and in that sense they are more and more involved in the parallel trading. As they receive the medicines, they sell a huge quantity immediately to the parallel traders. What we are seeing is that a huge slice of the population is becoming deprived. Yes, of the basic medicines they need to survive. Other data which I can give you is that each day that passes in Portugal, 11 families have to deliver their house. Each day, 11 families each day have to deliver their house to the banks. And in 2012, more than 160,000 families didn't deliver the house, as I said, but they were unable to continue to pay the loans to the banks. So they are now in a situation of incumprimento, of not being able to pay. I don't know the word in English, sorry. We know also that the majority of the Portuguese families, more than 54%, sorry, which have loans to be able to pay their houses, have as a total budget of the family less than 900 euros per month. So they need to pay for the loans, but we are talking about 54% of the families which have to live paying the loans and all the services and everything people need to live with an overall budget, family budget, below 900 euros per month. We have seen a huge increase of the taxes over the houses in Portugal, this over the last year and a half, but last week it was even reinforced, and in some cases we are facing an increase of more than 4,700% of the tax that people have to pay for the re-evaluation of their houses. And of course it has a huge impact in the families which already live in difficulties, and also will increase the already existing increase in the payment of the rents, because the amount and the prices of the rents have been increasing a lot. Just a few more data and then we can talk a little bit more. Every month 3,000 families get out of water in Portugal. They don't even have water for a glass in the morning or to take a shower or to cook. Every month 3,000 families have to stop paying their water bills, which means that they don't have access to water totally. And these data are from July 2011. I imagine that now is even more. And just in the first 6 months of 2012, more than 10,000 families asked help to the civil society organizations in order to be able to pay electricity and gas. So we saw the data, and we see that our people in Portugal and families that can pay the water but cannot pay for the electricity and gas, so they are taking shower with the cold water for almost 2 years. And this is a reality, this is not a fictional thing. And also there are figures showing how many people are living in total blackout because they don't have access to electricity anymore. Just to finish, because I think we can continue for 2 days if you want, by just saying measure by measure, but what we want is to underline that there are peoples and lives beyond these so-called progressive and positive progresses, in order to be more clear, concerning the adjustment program in Portugal. Just to give you some figures concerning what is happening also in culture and media, and then I'll shut up myself, I promise you. In culture, we had cuts in the level of last year on the level of 38%. In a sector which is already very, very fragile, with a budget which is below, the aim was to have 1% of the budget devoted to culture, and the budget is 0.1% that we have for the culture and cultural services, which mean, of course, that I can then detail more about what are the implications on these. And for the media, we are now facing the demand of privatization of one of the national channels. The national agency LUSA has been announced just recently a cut of 30% in the public service contract, and this is the public national agency, as I said. In terms of the public service, as I said, 30% of cuts, which represents 70% of the total budget of this agency. And with these two measures in the national agency, general agency, LUSA, and with the attempt to privatize one of the public channels, we see there's a huge offensive towards the public service in the media, and of course we ask whether will we continue to have a public service or not in terms of the media. And and a lot of strikes, and also information concerning the downsizing in other newspapers and daily newspapers, and I couldn't stop if I would say all the data, so I'm just finishing with the suicide rate, which has increased a lot after the intervention of Troika, and the data which were published recently have shown that the increase of suicidal tendencies in the university students is of 10%, and the number of calls asking for help in order to not commit suicide has increased in the first semester 27%. So I think that shows a lot of what we are trying to say, and of course I have to stop here, otherwise I'll not shut up. And you have questions to make, I'm sure. Thank you.
Very shortly, very short. We think that these policies are really not working at all, by no means. We think that the Portuguese government has gone even further than the impositions of the Troika, so they are the good pupils, and we think that they should go, and we should have a call for new general elections. And we think that there is really a dividing line in society about those who are in favor of the Troika intervention and its measures, and those who are against. And obviously we have solutions who are both a combination of national of solutions at national level, because we have a parliament, we are still a democracy, and also combined with solutions at European level. We think that a lot of the solutions have to deal, for instance, with stop taxing the workers more, and taxing capital and financial transactions, who are very much escaping, avoiding taxation, and we have to end the offshores. We think also that there has to be a combination with European measures. The European budget has to be higher, has to be more robust, has to take into account some harmonization of social rights by above and not by below. We think that the Central European Bank should be under the control of the elected institutions, and should be able to finance directly the states, and not to finance the banks, who then finance the states at huge interest rates. We think that even concerning the debt, there should be mutualization of the debt through the emission of bonds of European debt. And this is very brief, and I hope Marisa will complete.
More immediately, we of course demand that we have to denounce the memorandum of agreement with Troika, because it's not possible, neither acceptable that we pay interest rates at the level that we are paying for 78 billion euros of help. I don't think it is a help, but of the bailout, we are paying more than 30 billion euros of interest rates to IMF, ECB, and European Commission. That means that, of course, it's not acceptable that the European institutions are able to provide loans at 1% interest rates to the private banks, and cannot provide loans to the states at the same interest rates. So there's a huge profit if the interest rates we charged to Greece, Portugal, Ireland, there's a huge profit if they are around 6, 7 or even 8% or 9%. It depends on the moments. Now they are around 6, but there's a huge profit. And of course, someone is benefiting from our disgrace, and it cannot continue like that. And we also ask for the renegotiation of the debt, as we still don't know, because no one wanted to do an audit to the debt. We still don't know which debt is result of speculation activities and which debt is not resulting of it. And I think that we need to be clear in order to say that the timetable and the debt that we are paying need to be clarified and adjusted to the reality and not the opposite. We ask for an independent audit to the debt, yes.
An independent, what does independent mean?
We asked first for a citizen audit, which would involve different sectors, for the civil society organization, from the academia, those who have been warned for so long that these measures would not work because they are recessive and no one listened to them. And now we have even the IMF saying that, okay, we had a bad prediction because for each euro that we are cutting in the public expense, we are removing 2 years from the real economy. A lot of people were already saying that, so making a kind of mea culpa will not help anyone unless we change the policy which is behind this system. And we want for an audit, yes, with independent bodies, citizen organizations, economic organizations and academia and trade unions who wants to get involved and in order to have a more clear picture about the reality we are facing concerning the debt. We still don't know which are the parts of the debt. We just know that is expected that the public debt in Portugal will be of 124% in 2013. When we when the Portuguese government asked for the intervention of Troika, the public debt was around 80% of the GDP, and now it's expected to be 124% in 2013. So it's not only the life of people which is threatened, it's also that the economic figures and indicators, I don't know if it is the word, are showing that this is a failed recipe. The debt and the deficit are totally out of control in Portugal. Totally.